Yeah, it's okay. So I'll just go over this super quick. The NBDC, the National Bee Diagnostic Center, which is located in Beaver Lodge, Alberta, is the first diagnostic facility in Canada dedicated to pollinator research and services that are specifically for producers and industry. So we are actually what's called a TAC facility, a Technology Access Center. Our primary focus is pollinator health, and we work very closely with industry groups, individual producers, and other research teams across Canada. Our facility houses advanced molecular technology to assist with all levels of applied research, and we also host specialized training for other research teams at our lab, as well as university students. Alan? Oh, there we go. Okay, so when the NBDC first opened, our primary focus was honeybee research, of course. Our diagnostics lab processed bee samples that we received from producers and researchers from across Canada to identify pest pathogens and diseases that were detrimental to the honeybee health as well as industry. In recent years, the NBDC has expanded the building to make room for more specialized equipment and specialized staff to run that equipment as well. So as the research facility grew, we were able to add more agricultural testing services and projects. And this slide here shows pretty much just a visual cue of some of the projects that we're working on right now at the center. Actually, let's do a show of hands. Who's actually heard of the NBDC? Probably, yeah. Has anyone taken a tour of the facility? We invite the public, and county councillors have often come in different groups. And of course, there's events throughout the year where you're welcome to come for a tour, as long as it's pre-arranged ahead of time. So as the research facility expanded, these are some of the projects that we started working on. So of course, our main focus was still pollinator health. We do diversity monitoring. We do residue testing, and that can be something as simple as testing for residue in honey samples, or we can coordinate with other groups that can do specialized testing for us. We do pest entomology, bioremediation, and something that's really come to the forefront of all industries, as you've spoke about today, is the resistance testing. We do quite a bit of that there at the lab as well. We have also received funding for a regenerative ag project, which we'll speak to a little later. We focus on disease management and of course the molecular equipment, and the new equipment that we have is allowing us to do some really amazing things with pollen and honey testing. So in this slide, you can see some of the symptoms that you'll see from a deformed wing virus. For honeybee research, the producers and researchers would send bee samples to us, or our technicians would go out into the field and collect them, depending on which research project we were working at that time of the year. Those samples would be processed at our lab using various techniques and equipment. So in this image, the deformed wing virus that you see, our goal is to detect viruses like that before they get out of hand. And hopefully a producer would send samples to us as part of their own risk management strategy to monitor the health of their own colonies before a disease like this were to get out of hand. Here's a general list of the most common pollinator viruses that we find. You can see that some of the viruses traditionally seen in honeybees have also now been detected in leafcutter bees right here in the Peace region. It's important to note that this virus was detected in very low levels in the leaf cutters that we sampled here in the Peace Country, and this could indicate that the leaf cutters are a little bit more resistant to these viruses. So that will require ongoing testing and monitoring in our area. Our research also includes wild bees. So as we sample pollinators from across the region, we'll be able to identify species that may be at risk, as well as monitor the transmission of viruses and diseases between the pollinators. So the NBDC is the first laboratory in Canada to start diagnostic testing for leafcutter viruses. Until now, this has been an understudied area, but we feel it is quite important. So the leaf cutter is the primary pollinator of hybrid canola and alfalfa seed production. We operate a level 2 biohazard containment lab with very strict standard protocols to ensure that disease and pests are not introduced into this region. We also work quite closely with the Brooks Testing Center. We're collaborating with leafcutter bee producers and alfalfa seed associations across Western Canada in our research projects. Our newest research project began last year with the Alfalfa Seed Commission of Alberta, the Saskatchewan Forage Producers Development Commission, and the Manitoba Forage Seed Association. So NBDC is investigating products and alternative controls that will help with parasitic wasps. Producers traditionally used Vapona strips for controlling these pests during the incubation stage, but with the recent PMRA canceling this registration, this product is no longer available for producers, and it's kind of left them scrambling a little bit because it was never actually licensed for use with leafcutter bee incubation. So we're going to invite members of the Forage Seed Association to reach out to us after this presentation or contact the NBDC in regards to those trials that will be running this upcoming season in the Peace Country, and talk a little bit more about what we can help offer you in regards to that. So Nadia had spoke to the Living Lab project, and we have reached out with Talent on a couple of occasions already because we have also received a regenerative ag project. So we're in the frame of mind that instead of trying to reinvent and redo an experiment that somebody else in the area might already be working on, our goal is to go out and find what niche can we serve. And we feel that niche is going to be our molecular diagnostic facility. So we are also working with producers across the Peace region, and we have other research trials on the go as well. But our main goal is to have a producer-driven project. So we'll be surveying. We're in the first year of surveying our producers here as well. And we'll be making amendments to our plans and projects as we go. So there's a lot of regenerative ag projects currently being taken on in the Alberta and BC area. So we feel that with the pollinator health as our forefront in science and industry expertise, that's where we're going to fit that niche. So we also have a survey, and you'll be able to get more information from that on our website. And we're also going to invite people to participate through email and phone calls and go from there. The lab has also recently expanded to include the DNA barcoding and eDNA technology at NBDC. And this technology helps us to identify bees and other insect species. The DNA sequencing technology will be used to analyze honey quality and the floral composition of honey. It can also be used to help correlate bee health to the pollen source the bees were feeding from. So that is the end of my scripted presentation. And as a farmer at heart, I want to show you guys some photos and kind of get down to the nitty-gritty. Who are we and what do we do? So we apologize that Dr. Gail McInnes couldn't make it here today, but she is going to be speaking down south to the Alfalfa Seed Association later, I think in a week or two down south. But if you guys have any questions that I can't answer today, I'm happy to pass those along to them. So one of the research projects I worked on included testing honey samples from across Canada. So we would collect from producers and we would assess them for different diseases, which may also be present in honey. So it's not always just the bees and the plants that would have those diseases. Here's just a sample of our ultra low temp freezer, which is always a hit on the tours. We don't keep food or fudgicles in there. This is a -80 freezer used for research purposes. This is a photo that I took with our microscope on site. And this shows one of the biggest problems with the honeybees that are facing in our area as well as around the world right now. Has anybody heard about the Varroa mite or Varroa destructor? Is there any honeybee keepers in here? in the room. So of course, when you go to Ag Canada and you see, like, and Dr. Purnell is, I think, the only apiculture researcher with Ag Canada. So when you guys go to those presentations, this is some of the information you'll be learning about. But this Varroa destructor that you see right here, that's a mite that is about the size of a basketball, if you were to have that on your shoulder or on you, feeding on you. And this is one of the main vectors of many diseases. And this gets the kids' attention when we do the school tours. All of the other mites that you see on the body of this bee that I extracted from the brood comb is just different developmental stages of that same mite. So these are mites that came off of a bee sample that a beekeeper had sent in to us. And you can see the levels of the mite infestation are fairly high. So this beekeeper may have or should have did some treatments that different times of the season that would have helped prevent this. But we're also recently finding out that some of the applications that we're using to treat different diseases and pests and pathogens are also becoming resistant as well. So that's becoming quite a problem. This is an image of chalk brood disease in a honeybee colony. And what happens with this fungal spore is it will infect the hive to the point where it's a chalky looking substance that the producers will find, and they'll find these little mummified cases at the bottoms of their baseboards of their honeybee colonies. So right now, the Peace Country, one of your selling points is that you, for leaf cutter or alfalfa seed production, is we are chalk brood free as far as we know, and we're going to be including the chalk brood testing in our upcoming tests this season to help monitor and ensure that that stays that way. Here's some samples of honeybees, wild bees that we would have sampled. So while we're out doing the other crop analysis and testing and sweeping, we're also able to take those same samples and analyze what kind of wild bee species are in our crops and how they're being effective. All of these bombus actually came from one site located up near Saskatoon Mountain. And the reason we want to focus on all types of pollinators and bees in our area instead of just the honeybee is those diseases are transmitting from one to another now. So we are going to have to start monitoring and checking to make sure, you know, which came first. Did the leaf cutters have it first? Did the honeybees have it first? We don't know those things right now. And maybe they're resistant to getting sicker from it. So we're going to be watching for that. And this is a leaf cutter bee. So those of you who aren't in seed production may not know that this style of a bee will cut a circle on a leaf, and she will roll it up like a little burrito sleeping bag. And then she will fly many miles if she needs to go back to the nesting cavity. I know Beaver Plastics was a sponsor of this event. Someone like Beaver Plastics would provide the nesting blocks for the leaf cutter bees. So they're going to come back to this nest and they're going to wrap up this little leaf into, one of the technicians called it a cabbage roll looking shape. And she'll stuff some pollen and food and nectar in the bottom of that cell. She'll lay an egg and then she'll fold it over like a good pierogi wrapper would. And she's Ukrainian, obviously. And they'll just keep going throughout the season. And what they'll do is they'll just have more and more bee cells in the nests. And in the fall, the farmer comes along, punches those cells out, and we overstore them. And of course, after some testing through the Brooks Testing Center, if those bees have low parasite loads and are chalk brood free, our producers here in the Peace Country are able to sell those cells out of the area. So this is Patricia Wolf-Viega. She's the manager of the NBDC in Beaver Lodge. And she has extensive experience with molecular laboratory work, as well as honeybees, and a farmer way, way, way back as well. So I guess the message that we wanted to bring home today is people are going to ask, well, why is the bee lady here at our seed association? But basically what you guys have here in the Peace Country available to use is a world-class lab facility that is available to do testing for producers and associations. Sometimes protocols can be tweaked, sometimes new equipment can be reworked or purchased so that we can start accommodating some of the needs that you're going to start having in your industries as well. So we're open to discussions, and we look forward to learning more about some of the hurdles that you guys might have. And upcoming events that you can learn more or hear about us include the March 28th, the Alfalfa Seed Commission AGM, which is down south. And then everyone should make an effort to get to the bee days. Dr. Purnell has an amazing event there. We participate on a small scale, and we have some of our own displays there too. If anyone is I can't even say the word. My daughter had to teach me how to do this. I've created a QR code, so you can hold your camera up to that and it will take you to our website to learn more about us and the research projects that we have on the go. So thanks, Talon, for inviting us. If anyone has any questions, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, very good presentation. I sure like your burrito talk.
See, that's their first mistake. I'm a farmer, not a biologist.
Yeah, and you're explaining it properly to me. I'm honeybee, maybe not expert, but honeybee is my thing, and the burrito works really good. Yeah. I don't even want to talk about how the males eat the female, or the females eat the males. You got another guy in Southern Alberta.
The males die after they breed the queen.
Yeah,
sorry.
Coming back to your popsicle deep freeze, I think you might have touched on it, and I'm talking chalk brood and honeybees. So are you looking to see if the chalk brood is transferable to the wild bees and the leaf cutters, or what are we doing?
That is a good question.
Because in honey is what I'm thinking.
Pardon?
Because you were saying you're taking samples of honey.
We have, with our leaf cutter trials and our forage seed trials that we started last year, we're going to be able to test some of those cocoons that we harvested from the Peace Country. And we're also able to test the live bees. So we were sweeping in the fields.
Okay, but you were saying you're testing honey samples. Oh,
that was for the honeybees. Sorry, that was a different kind of bee.
For honeybees. Yeah, you're testing for disease, correct?
Yes. So the chalk brood for honeybees is not transferable to leaf cutter bees.
Okay, I guess that's what I'm asking. Yeah. And what about wild bees? Do we know if it's transferable or not?
We don't know yet. We don't know.
Okay, thank you.
So that's kind of why it's great to have somebody from, we have Patricia there, first and foremost. We have Steve there for the honeybee side. We have Dr. Gail McInnes now for the wild bees. She's from Eastern Canada. And now we've collaborated with those other groups, and Gail will more than definitely, as a pollination scientist, be able to lead the way with these new leafcutter bee trials. So with the banning of that product, so as a producer, I would have my cells, as you probably started already, and every spring we would ramp up and we would incubate those leafcutter bee cells. And at a certain day in that incubation process, this parasitic wasp will emerge from those cells. And within 4 hours, in some cases, that wasp can turn around, breed, and impregnate those larvae with new parasitic wasp eggs. So do you see how that cycle? So we would put up, as the farmers would, these Vapona strips, right? And those would be up for a certain amount of time. And then the farmer's job was to aerate that area. And because you want to kill the wasps during their little hatching period, but not have it in there so long to kill the larvae of the new emerging bees. So now what are we going to use to control that? So the seed associations that we're working with across Manitoba and Saskatchewan are very interested in what we're finding out this summer.
So talking chemicals, I work very closely with beekeepers because I do a lot of clover seed production.
Yeah.
We do have to spray insecticides sometimes.
Oh yes, yeah.
The problem we have right now, and I'm thinking of the beekeeper and the growers, is they've banned Matador. Matador was one of the best, I think, was probably one of the safest chemicals there is, because there is actually pheromone in it to keep the bees off the flowers for 24 hours. Yeah. And it's a contact. We've lost that because of government PFRM or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Lingo that It wasn't tested on cow food, but yes, in Eastern Canada are using it in horticulture.
Yeah.
So it's a Western Canada. Can you give 2 bits on that? And I don't expect you to like chemicals. I don't like chemicals, but sometimes we got to use them and it's the safest way.
I
for the
can't
beekeepers.
speak to the residue or the chemical applications because I'm not trained to do that. So I would totally be giving my coffee shop version.
Okay.
And that's a legitimate answer. Yeah.
Oh, does anybody else
Yeah.
have any questions for Wendy?
Yeah. Well, thank you for your patience. It was nice to see you guys today, and by all means, reach out to us at the lab and definitely show up at the bee days because there's some good resources there for producers.